Film fans around the world know who Steven Spielberg is. He's the man responsible for having 3 of his movies hold the record for highest grossing movie in history, and for such a decent amount of time the only movie to beat E.T. the Extraterrestrial at the box office was his own Jurassic Park, aka my personal favorite movie. Across the ocean, which is a really overused phrase, and to where Dick Van Dyke clearly isn't from, the United Kingdom, Doctor Who was made in the early 1960s, becoming at this point in time a cultural landmark of pop culture around the globe, while maintaining its roots heavily in Great Britain even to this very day. To date, there's not even been one Doctor that hasn't been British. And Disney, the last ingredient for what this video is about. And I don't know if I really need to talk about Disney. The original man himself, Walt Disney, made a mouse drawing talk thanks to iWorks, and things took off for him. And now the company he made owns Marvel, Star Wars, Lucasfilm, Pixar, National Geographic, 20th Century Studios, and possibly other stuff I'm not aware of. But it is about all 3 coming together, as after the last episode of the classic run of Doctor Who, titled Survival ironically, the Walt Disney Company was going to buy the rights to Doctor Who. And they wanted Steven Spielberg to captain their ship and run the show, and he was their only choice, as at the same time Spielberg also felt Disney was the only company that could do Doctor Who justice. Hello guys, gals, and non-binary pals, I go by Nile. The channel's name is Juvenile Nile. Please don't let that name leave your brain. If you enjoyed today's content, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, as well as hitting that notification bell. Going back to what today's video is about is, yes, what I said. I couldn't get any more blunter than wording it like this. The Walt Disney Company wanted to make a Doctor Who reboot with Steven Spielberg running the show. Now, this wouldn't be Disney's first time working with Doctor Who, nor was it the last time they would try to work with Doctor Who. Tom Baker once presented an episode of Disney all the way back in 1975, in fact, as the Doctor. And not even that, the time the company tried to interact with the show, as in the mid-60s, not that long after the show has debuted, mind you, Disney already wanted to adapt some of its episodes for its Wonderful World of Disney television series, or at the very least the episode titled Marco Polo, originally starring William Hartnell, but as you may know, this never happened and it's hard to tell what they would have done in their adaptation. But that will be a little mystery I'll always be curious about now. Later on in the 2010s, Disney actually bought the rights to air the 10th Doctor episodes of Doctor Who on Disney XD, and nowadays, as you might have heard, Disney Plus will be the international home of Doctor Who, everywhere but the UK, and potentially production partners, I believe. I am pretty certain they're going to give them a higher budget and all that. Steven Spielberg, on the other hand, has been a fan of the series for a long time, alongside even his best pal George Lucas. But we're going to be focusing on Steven and Disney and Doctor Who here. So while all this information has already been forgotten from past attempts to failed attempts to just buying the rights even, it's all pretty forgotten. This project though actually got pretty far. There was a show bible, scripts, or at least rough drafts of scripts, and the Doctor himself was even casted. But drum roll, I might forget to edit in, famous comedian and British performer, potentially the most perfect guy that never played the role, Eric Idle, famously from Monty Python and the Shrek movie people didn't like. But if you ask me, he's perfect. I agree with this casting so much. But the casting choice for the companion, while I don't personally mind it, I can see some people being a little weary about it, as Pamela Anderson was going to be playing a character titled Lizzie Travis. If you want to know what the goals were for this series, seeing how a Hollywood adaptation of a British show does not sound the most pleasing, his goals were simple. He wanted to keep it as faithful and original as possible, even going as far as to ask permission to remake classic episodes like Earthshock, The Celestial Toymaker, and The Yeti, and more. There's quite a few of them. But it seems the goal is just to make 22-hour-long episodes. So see, it's more about putting in money for bigger effects, since the cheaper effects likely cause people to run away from Doctor Who, with so many new sci-fi shows having much larger budgets. The man behind the pitch for this series and the show bible that was written was a man named John Leakley, working for Amblin Entertainment, Steven Spielberg production company, with a bit of the vision going to producer Philip Seagal, who, if you're a Doctor Who fan, may know that he was the guy responsible for the Doctor Who movie starring Paul McGann. And if you're aware of the controversies around that movie, means yes, even in this part of production, the Doctor would have been revealed to be half human. But that isn't all in this draft. The Doctor's half-brother would have been revealed to be the Master. This version of the Doctor would also only start adventuring in its 8th incarnation, only stealing his TARDIS then, among other things, like featuring the Doctor's and Master's shared father. It's fun mentioning that Paul McGann was actually still up for consideration as a Doctor all the way back here, but unless I'm misunderstanding something, this might be his audition here for this version of the series, and not the movie that ended up being made. There was also a rumor that a woman was going to play the Doctor, but that didn't end up happening, and I can't tell if it's actually accurate or simply Hollywood gossip, but I'll throw that piece of information out here. In the rebooted series, the Master would have had control of Gallifrey, and that is the reason the Doctor was going to flee in the first place. This is where the detailing of the plot would begin for us. A few episodes would be about searching for the Doctor's and Master's father, Ulysses? I don't think I can pronounce that name well, and I apologize ahead of time. Such as an episode where the Doctor, for some reason, thought his dad might have been Blackbeard. I have no access to these scripts, so unfortunately, I could not tell you why he believed that. Would-be companion name, I don't know how to say this, Barusa? I'm gonna pronounce it Barusa. I apologize if this is a real name and I'm saying it wrong. He is a Time Lord Cardinal. I can't figure out what a Time Lord Cardinal would do, but he was also at one point the Time Lord President, or Lord President as they call it, and the Doctor's grandfather. So this was a show about family. It reveals a lot about the Doctor, which I know a lot of people don't like, but can't really deny that it wouldn't make it at least fascinating in some form or another. From what I can gather, the plot story of the series would actually be the Doctor and his grandfather trying to find, as said before, the man that is the Doctor's and Master's father, Ulysses, connecting these episodes together. The Doctor's mother would have also been revealed to be an Egyptian peasant girl, Annalise, who died in ancient Egypt, so that's what I'm understanding. The details of this character are quite vague, so if more information comes out, I very well could be wrong, or I could be putting details together, and I apologize in advance. But somewhere around here is where the Doctor would have been raised at first on Earth. Another change. But this is also where his first incarnation died, so he was taken to Gallifrey to live as an orphan. If all of this information isn't overwhelming enough, let me go farther then. The Doctor fled Gallifrey because the Doctor, as he was about to become the effing president of the Time Lords after his grandfather, shamed the Time Lords for his behavior, much like he does on this show, except he was never going to be the president as far as I'm aware on the show, and this resulted in him being hated. And after that happened, the Master was to be the president, which Grampy Who was trying to avoid, because the Doctor was regarded as a half-child. He's not a full Time Lord, making that choice a bit weird for the culture. All this chaos, which makes it kind of hard to pronounce, so sorry if I'm saying it all kind of slow. I can't fathom being able to take some of this in one go, so if you have to rewatch the video, I completely understand. I'm hoping I am comprehensible throughout this. It's a lot of information, I'm sorry. Anyways, President Master, which is weird to say, ordered the Doctor to be executed, hence his fleeing, and their grandpa dies with his soul becoming part of the TARDIS. Does this mean the TARDIS talks now? Is there like a ghost flying around it? It doesn't say, which is really unfortunate. And if you can believe it, this is the stuff that led to the show ultimately falling apart, along with another thing. Gosh, the planned finale of this being a family reunion, as in this was going to be the finale of the show, was the Master being disposed of. I don't know if this means he got killed, they throw him in jail or what, but it sounds like a murder to me. And the Doctor also became Lord President at the end of the series. Of course, dialects were involved with this show moving along far enough to get a CGI of the new version of the dialects, the spider dialects, which is a design I don't personally hate. A lot of people do. I actually kind of like it, but that may just be because I understand it. At this time frame, Doctor Who was still fresh off of television, and it was pretty regarded as pretty cheesy at this point in time. Its popularity wasn't the same it was in its prime, so trying to make a more serious version of the dialects, it makes sense at the time. I don't feel like you can hate it too much for that. Obviously, none of this happened. The show didn't go forward, to the relief of many watching this potentially, if this video gets viewed enough anyway. And why was that? Why didn't it happen? Two things, one of which I'll talk about later, but the first one being, it was regarded as too serious, which I can completely see why they think that. The TARDIS is haunted by the Doctor's grandfather, for crying out loud, and the Time Lord straight up wanted to execute the Doctor. And another part of it being that apparently some of the story story choices veered way too closely to Spielberg's own Indiana Jones on top of that, making it just weird. So Leakley's story Bible was scratched and replaced by a less serious and cerebral version of it by Robert De Laurentiis. Doctor's grandfather's name was changed to Pandak, which is, I think that's how you pronounce it, but what a weird freaking name, but I guess Time Lords have weird names, so what do I know? Instead of the Doctor's father being a great Time Lord explorer, which I might have forgot to say, but yes, the Doctor's father and the John Leakley version was a great famous Time Lord explorer, hence the Doctor kind of following in his footsteps to find him. In this version though, he's instead an insane former professor at Berkeley named Dr. John Smith. I'm calling him insane, by the way. I don't think that's a part of it, but I can't stress this word enough. The choices behind this are baffling. Okay, baffling enough in this version of the show that's supposed to be less serious made Dr. John Smith have an obscure concentration camp tattoo, and he also built a bomb at an anti-nuclear demonstration. He also tried killing Hitler though, which isn't all that bad. That's a pretty cool thing actually, which explains the concentration camp tattoo, which I mostly thought was odd because I'm saying that in the context that this is supposed to be the lighthearted version of the show, and that is not lighthearted. It's really not. I cannot fathom after the bomb building thing. That's Time Lord whack job. Gosh, I don't know how he got a wife and a daughter on Earth. Which yes means the Doctor had a half-sister named I don't know, because it doesn't say her mother's name, which isn't the Doctor's mother, just the half-sister was Anne Joyce. Anyways, sadly there's not a lot to be said about these two. I'm not sure if the information just isn't out there, I didn't find it, or this version of the show was scrapped way too quickly for this to really be figured out on the notepads. Also at this point, I'd like to remind you, this is all just a pilot. It may have been sort of backdoor pilot deal like the Doctor Who movie we did get, but yeah. I mean, the Blackbeard plot I brought up earlier would have been later on, but everything else has been what would be in the pilot, unless stated otherwise. Anyways, the Doctor goes to where he would find his companion, the aforementioned Lizzie, in World War II London, before going to then present day 1994, where the Doctor's reunited with his father. I assumed he'd go to see if he could catch his dad doing whatever he's doing there. I guess not. I don't know. Happy times. He's reunited with his father one way or another. Except, oh wait, the Master has a freaking time-traveling warship. Yeah, a warship. Where the Master escapes with the Daleks. But if it makes you happier, they wouldn't have been spider Daleks, but they would have been these bad boys, which just suck. I could at least understand the spider Daleks. I don't even, why bother even calling these Daleks? Why do they look like this? Another thing to note is that Lizzie also had a bulldog, so the Doctor had an animal companion, which is quite cute. And I wouldn't mind that, but I'm also a dog lover, so maybe that's just me, I don't know. Anyways, this brings us to the second reason the show didn't go anywhere, or maybe third, I kind of lost track already. Spielberg found out that Disney wasn't going to put it under its Disney banner, because Disney, if you didn't know, for a time put its more mature and alternate works under its banner Touchstone, which is where Doctor Who was going to go, presumably making Spielberg feel like it wasn't of importance to them. Or maybe he just really wanted the magic that's associated with the Disney brand to be attached to the show, which makes sense, really. But because of Disney not wanting to really do that, the man just lost interest in the show as a whole. Whether he liked this version of the draft by Robert De Laurentiis, I'm not aware, sadly. And that was the death of the Disney-Spielberg collaboration of a potential Doctor Who remake on a Hollywood budget. If you've enjoyed the video and would like to see more, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing, as well as hitting the notification bell. And as always, I hope you enjoyed your stay and that you enjoy the rest of your day. If I'm lucky, I'll see you next time.